Well, and here we go. This is the Gin and Tonic show, all new. Yay. So I hope this is going to work. It's a live chat with live streaming and everything. It's June, and it's the 5th of June. It's the Gin and Tonic show. And hopefully, thanks to Ike, we are in a new format once again. You know, it seems like every couple of months we start everything from scratch. So let's see what happens today. So what we got today is that we are going to have some news, and then we'll just see what people are going to come up with. So it's June 2016, and I realize that gods have been around for, what, 200,000 years, and these are creatures which live in our brains, just like Cinderella or Harry Potter or Spider-Man. And these are things that we don't really take seriously. We don't really, you know, go to the office in the morning and say, well, I've had a serious chat with Spider-Man and he told me that I should do X. Whereas we can come to the office and say, well, I had a dream with Jesus, and Jesus told me something, or Muhammad appeared in my dream and told me to do what. I had a near-death experience, and I went to heaven and came back. Why is this something that we take seriously? Why is this something that is being discussed? And then, of course, we have the effects, because Islam, I think, is affecting everybody on the planet at the moment. Now, it's only 20% of the population of this planet, and still it's affecting nearly 100% of all the people. Why is that? So this is why we here at the Gin and Tonic show try and, you know, shed some light on this and discuss what Islam is, what it does, and how it works in the 21st century. Now, we're doing this not to persuade people to believe something else, or I just want people to think. I just want people to think about why they believe what it is they believe. And if we can then talk about this, I think this is brilliant. That's all that I want, nothing more. I'm not here to blast Islam. I'm not here to blast Muslims. Muslims are great people, and most of them are much better than their God. That doesn't mean the others don't exist, but this is why I'm not going to say all Muslims are stupid or evil or whatever. No, this is not the place. This is not my intention at all. And also, for some people, Islam is important. For some people, you know, they need gods to get through their lives and through the day and in their everyday life, and it gives them comfort, it gives them hope. I mean, I don't understand it. I don't understand why anybody would want to believe something that is not true. But I can understand that if somebody really has nothing else, then a God might provide some comfort. False comfort, but am I going to slam someone for that? No. As long as it doesn't affect me. Now, normally a belief has consequences, okay? So if you have a belief that blowing yourself up, this is the way to go, then of course this consequence it's something that affects me, and that is something that I will object to. But if somebody just quietly goes and prays and thinks about this, who am I to blast them for this? Now, what is the worst, I think, is what is happening at the moment and it doesn't matter whether you call it right wing, left wing, or center, up or down, or whatever. The people that are running around the streets at the moment, saying it's unnatural to be a Muslim, it's this as a Muslim, and somebody is threatening all Muslims and putting, I think that is very, very unnecessary, and this is not what we should be doing. So I'm looking at this from the perspective of a non-believer. I don't believe gods exist. There's no room for a God in my brain, and there's no room for a God in this universe, I think, anyway. So I'm not here to sell anything. I'm not here to convince anyone of anything. I'm just trying to show the way that it is from a non-believer perspective. So if I manage to get somebody thinking, and I've managed to get somebody to understand that there's nothing wrong with questioning your beliefs. There's nothing wrong with looking at yourself, what it is that you believe and why you believe this, the epistemic basis for what it is that you believe. And I think this is good. And this is why what we've done over the last, I can't even, 7 years or something, is look at it's not 7. I think it's more like 4 or 5 years. Is look at the origins of Islam. Look at where it comes from historically, where it comes from a textual context, and what kind of influence the different people have on Islam and who believes what. We've looked at the different groups. We've looked at the different people who influence it. We've looked at when what was written the first time, by whom and why. We've looked at the different elements which comprise Islam. And this, of course, is something that most people don't realize, and that is that Islam is a political ideology, because it's always based on a caliph. It's always based on a worldly goal, that Sharia should be implemented, that there should be one caliph leading the ummah of all Muslims, and everybody gets behind one single God and worships one single God. And this is what we're trying to show, that this is absolutely not the way to think about this if you're looking at reality. Now, let me just, the way that it works is I normally do some definitions in the beginning, just to show that what this is about and what this is not about. And the idea is to get people discussing this, and the idea is to get people talking about this, and the idea is to get people to go to godless.ch. What Ike now has managed to conform into, or make conform into a live stream, live everything, where everything comes together and we don't have to do different things any longer. So let's hope that this works here. I'm just thinking, what happens if people have gone to the old place? No, they can't. If anybody enters Godless, they will end up here. So it should be okay. Okay, so we do a couple of news, and I found a couple of things which I think are quite strange, which are quite wild and wonderful. And this is why, start screen share, start to all, there you go. This is the first piece of news that I would like to present to people, because in Iran, officials have, I don't know, do you know the Kardashians? I don't know if anybody knows the Kardashians. I don't anyway. I've heard that they exist, and I know that some people brag, I know all the Kardashians. I think they're a waste of time, total waste. But now what I think is quite funny, because I find them like really useless. Iranians now accuse the Kardashian, one of them, what's her name? Kim. I think this is this woman in the picture, being a secret agent. I don't know who actually. I don't know. I don't really know what her claim to fame is. I don't really know what it is that she does. So if anybody can enlighten me why Iran would think that Kim Kardashian is anybody capable of corrupting young people and young women, I don't know. The only thing that I can see is that she's not wearing a hijab, she's not covering herself, she's not doing anything that a Muslim woman should do. And why should she? So if that is something that is inspiring for women, well, so be it. Why not? I can't see anything wrong with that. So I don't know why Iran would go and say, well, she's a secret agent, and she has been, I mean, she's not, she's a real person, I think. This is not a robot or somebody that was manufactured to look like this and to then go and corrupt young people and women. Well, sorry, does somebody have an opinion?
I think there is generally like a sense of paranoia when it comes to Islam, and I was looking into some guy called Harun Yahya, and then they had these other imams saying that he was some sort of Mossad plan, and I've heard stuff like Muslim friends say Pepsi stands for pay every penny, support Israel, and absurd things like that. You know what I mean? And they were going around, do you think it's really that? Yeah, I think it's really that. And it's like they heard it from the imam, and it's like, oh my god. So, yeah. This is like my real problem though. Like, whenever I try and research Islam by myself, I don't know who the mainstream imams or sheikhs are. Do you know what I mean? And all I get is like the Majid Nawaz. I know he's not mainstream. You know, or the Quilliams, and I know they're not mainstream. But this is the problem.
What is mainstream?
Well, most people take it. You know, it's popular, it's trending, it's what people think.
Well, the thing, what I always say is that there is no such thing as the Islam or the Muslim, because it's down to interpretation.
Well, no, I want to know what is the trend, because it may be that it's all subjective, but I want to know which objective viewpoint is the one that's more powerful and more popular.
Well, there isn't. This is why people are killing each other. That's why people disagree to the point that they need to kill each other just to make their own point, just to bring their point across and to show that the others might be wrong.
Oh no, I'm just talking in the sense of like in the UK, maybe perhaps. Like I know, let's go smaller scale. Like I know Majid Nawaz isn't as much as an authority on Islam as say, you know, someone else, or how the Quilliam Foundation isn't necessarily respected and it's viewed with suspicion. So that's the sort of thing I want to know. Who are the voices who are sort of, you know, in the home?
Okay, the problem is that somebody like Majid Nawaz is actually an expert in Islam. It's just that his interpretation is a realistic one. That's why he's a reformist. He is somebody who says the way that Islam is structured at the moment, it is dying. And if we don't do anything, Islam is going to die out, you know, just within a relatively short time period. So he says, if we don't reform and if we don't come to the 21st century, the 21st century is going to carry on without us.
His interpretation is what I would call the opposite of realistic. I was watching a video today by, what was his name? My YouTube history. Jajabor the Nomad, is that how you pronounce it?
No,
the guy who used to be a Muslim who's deconverted.
Yes.
The myth of moderate Islam, and he's basically saying roughly the same thing that I do, which is that there's just no hope of reforming it, and it's completely ridiculous to even try it.
Well, this is the thing. I want to know who are the like talking heads within the Islamic community. Like, because Nawaz is talking from outside, sort of. He's sort of ostracized. Quilliam is not. It's not in, is it? It's seen with suspicion.
Yeah.
I
Well,
want to
I mean,
know
how
yeah. I want to know who the popular sheikhs are. Who's, you know.
Yeah, but this is like asking who are the popular social democrats.
It's not quite, because I want to know who, like, as in.
How could it be anything but ostracized? They're going against so much.
But the problem is,
they ignore 90% of the Qur'an and the Hadith.
The real problem is the sort of people who talk about Islam on the BBC, etc., etc. They're often not even like they get Nawaz on. He's got almost no traction within the Muslim community. So I want to know who are the people who are getting their voice in, and I don't know that because I don't speak Arabic. And I'm not in a mosque. Do you know what I mean?
It would be the imams.
Well, yeah, who are they?
Yeah, but there are so many different ones.
I know there are
different imams.
But I want to know what.
Almost all of them.
But I want to know what moderate Islam is. I want to know what that is, because I hear it all the time, but I don't know who these imams
There's no
are.
such thing as moderate Islam.
I don't know, because I can't find out who is representative of, you know, the average imam in the mosque.
This doesn't exist.
The translation for moderate Islam is people calling themselves Muslims who aren't really Muslims.
Hi, TJ. There's no such thing as moderate Islam. Sorry, it doesn't exist.
Well, regardless, I want to know who are the talking heads, and I want someone who is quote-unquote representative. You can't say there's not going to be anyone who's representative.
This doesn't exist. You see, you're demanding something that does not exist.
How can you say that there's not something that's representative when we're having a message that's communicated? Surely there's a standard communication.
No.
None.
No.
So there's no agreement at all on the interpretation of the Quran. There's no popular interpretation.
No, people are actually killing each other over the different interpretations.
No. But we're not talking about the general, like, the differences like Sunni, Shia,
Yeah, but that's exactly what it's all about.
But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking in the UK, where the majority of them are Sunni. Who are the talking heads within the mosques?
No, you need to understand. You have the Ahmadiyya, you have the Sunnis, you have the Shias, you have the Sufis, you have all these different directions. Then you have all the different madhabs, which you also have in the UK. And then in the UK, on top of all of that, you also have the Salafis, the Wahhabis, the fundamentals, and all those people. And all those you need to put together. And then you have the opposite spectrum. Then you have the Majid Nawazes and the Irshad Manjis and all those people who are saying, well, the current version of Islam doesn't work. Let's try find a new one. And these people are being rejected. Now, moderate Islam is something that is a label that has been slapped on people who don't really practice Islam. So it's very difficult to put labels people who don't practice Islam and practice one version of Islam.
The better question is, what constitutes moderate Islam? What do you think is moderate Islam? Because what you would think is moderate is not. To them, moderate Islam is extreme. It's killing homosexuals. It's killing apostates. That's moderate Islam.
Well, yeah,
that's not moderate.
I was looking at the interpretation of shirk, and this, when I looked at it, I typed in English, is voting shirk, and obviously I came up with, the apologist sort of thing where it's like, this Salafi guy was like, obviously they don't know Islam, but then in the comments there's loads of people saying, this guy's an apostate for saying that you should vote, so it's like, okay, I can see people, promoting this message that's okay, yeah, this is sort of moderate. But then again, in the comments, it's like, everyone's rejecting that. So I don't know who's being listened to.
Well, I made a statement. I came up with this statement a couple of years ago. At the end of the day, if you talk to a Muslim, you will find out that there are only two Muslims on this planet. And this is the guy that you're talking to and Muhammad. And those are the only two Muslims that exist, because every Muslim has their own way interpreting the Quran, the Islam, the text, everything. So this is why I always say it's like the Matterhorn, where if you take a guy, putting him on the left and putting him on the right, they will be completely opposites.
Well,
one on the north, one on the south, they will be opposites. So if you put all of Islam, every single Muslim around the Matterhorn, everybody will give you a slightly different version of the description of what it is they are seeing, and that is Islam.
Okay, so rather than trying to define, the Muslims themselves, let's take a look at the popular sort of media outreach things and see if we can categorize them. For my mind, I know the Muslim MPAC, there's MPAC, there's the Muslim Council of Britain, and then there's Quilliam. I don't know other ones. Do those have any representative? Are they representative at all? The things they say?
Yes and no. It depends who you talk to.
Well, can we categorize them based on their outlooks, the messages they put out?
No. This is the whole point. This is exactly what I'm trying to do. It depends. It depends on what the individual Muslim thinks. Whether he thinks, yes, we should be more modern, we should go and adapt to the environment, then they will be going more towards the Quilliams. Or if they say, no, we should go back to the original Islam, then they're not. So it depends on the outlook. It depends on. I mean, you've got people who are saying that the executioner in ISIS, in Daesh, this is the true Muslim.
Well, how about? I want to know who the people are who are saying the things that, as a Westerner, I might disagree with, because I can't even find that. Who have may have some sort of popular, maybe sort of semi-popular in the UK, so that I can go look at them and criticise them and perhaps gather some sort of political action against these individuals. But I can't even do that because I can't find any information, that's not, Quilliam or some sort of like apologist thing. So I'm like stunted in my ability to actually take action against some of these twats, because I can't find out who is the bigwig twat who's talking in my area.
It changes by the imam. It depends on who's running the mosque and what they say. And
exactly.
It's not like Christianity where you have, like I was Mormon, you have a book, you have the head of the Mormon church, and they say how it goes. They make the changes to the doctrine. They tell us what to believe. But there's nobody in Islam like that. You have the Qur'an and you have Hadith. That's it.
Well, how about? Well, I know this, but I want to know who are the ones doing the media outreach. I want to know where they are, because at least then I can sort of. That seems more doable to try and get at them. Oh, fuck it.
Like the Young Muslims, the Islamic, Islamic Association of Britain.
Yeah, I don't know.
No, wait, okay. Can I make a suggestion? Because in the beginning it is incredibly confusing because you don't really know what is it that I'm supposed to believe if you're looking at Islam. So the way that I suggest you do it is you take one step, one fact, one claim at a time. And then you go and you look, okay, how is it treated in the Quran? How is it treated in the Hadith? How is it treated in maybe the Sirah in the biography? And then you go and you look at the jurisprudence. Then you go and look at, I mean, there's only 4 madhabs. You go and you look what Mr. Hanafi, what Mr. Shafi, what Mr. Hanbali, and so, what they are saying about this. And then you can form an opinion, and you can then go and base it on what you have just learned, and you can then compare the information that you are getting from those people with what you just heard from the guy in the UK.
Yeah, but stop. I think that, like, the main thing that, we should be worried about as, like, non-Muslims is that all those schools of jurisprudence and basically all the scholars agreed that, it is the duty of the Muslims to, overthrow any sort of un-Islamic system of governance and to replace it ultimately with Islamic law.
Yeah, that's a good point. There are some common factors. The commonality is what I always say in the beginning, and that is the implementation of Sharia with this ideology that everybody needs to submit, and peace is equal to submission to this one God. So if you find out the commonalities, and this is exactly, it's a good point that TJ is just making, if you find that, then you can either go and you say, okay, this is the common factor, how do you stand with this common factor? Or you can say, okay, what did Muhammad do? But you will find that Muhammad contradicts himself and does the opposite in different cases. So he says, don't cut the trees, and then he cuts down the trees. Don't kill the people, then he kills the people. Don't do this, but then he does the opposite. So, how do you find what the real Islam is? You can't.
It's very schizophrenic, though.
Yes.
Isn't it?
Yes. And then on top of that, then you have the dualism. Because you have what we were discussing a couple of weeks ago, where you have no compulsion in religion, and then, well, if you better believe or else, the exact opposite. And you have this: don't drink alcohol. Well, alcohol's sort of okay. Don't do this. Well, it's sort of okay. So you have this dualism. You have this schizophrenic vision. So there is no one single version.
Well,
let me give you one practical example. You remember when the British soldier was slaughtered by this guy?
Yeah.
Rigby.
Yeah.
He quoted a verse to justify his killing, which goes like
that was
this.
from chapter 9.
Just retaliation is ordained upon you. Man for a free man for a free man, a female for a female, and a slave for a slave.
Now, so first is the slave, then is the female.
Yeah, yeah. And on the surface of it, he says that you guys are killing our brothers and sisters, so that's why I slaughtered them. So I'm ordered by the God to kill them. So of course, none of the Muslims were all outraged. So they had a little show on a British TV called The Big Question.
Oh yeah. They always see that, and they get some guy come on. Yeah.
They had two scholars of Islam. They held that position that they could not defend it, but they held that position that you cannot look at one single verse. You got to look at the entirety of Quran, and then they start to utter other things that Islam says, and then to the big applause of the audiences, Islam redeems. But the only problem with these scholars is they do not, especially in this particular case, they do not bring forth anything to show under what circumstance that this verse is applicable, along with many others. They cannot find any reason nor they justify to tell us Allah has said something. It's just a verse that at times got to be used, but they in that particular faith they completely failed. They did not, or neither the host asked them, like, okay, under what circumstance this verse is applicable.
Really? Nobody said in time of war?
I'm sorry?
Nobody said in time of war? Because Muslims do what they do because they believe we're at war.
No, but this particular verse says that, if somebody kills your wife, you can kill their wife. Somebody kills one of your tribe people, you can go kill one of their tribe people. Somebody
Right.
kills your slave, but that's
But it's
nothing to do
only
with war.
applicable during times of war. You can't. That's the only time that you can make it okay during times of
Yeah,
war.
but that has nothing to do with the war.
No, it's a different context.
It's not a literal. They think we're at war with unbelievers, with the West,
Okay.
with
Well,
everyone. So they justify it by saying, well, we're at war.
Let's assume it is a war. Okay, somebody kills my wife. I bypassed a guy who actually did the killing of my wife. I just killed his wife. We are even. What kind of a war strategy is that?
No, what
You can
Skepa is saying, okay, we have different contexts here. The one is the eye for an eye, and the other one is kill the people, kill the unbelievers whenever you find them when they are at war with us. So the one is a defensive strategy, and the other one is a retaliatory strategy. So there's two different things here.
No, I'll tell you what this verse is. You're probably not familiar with this. Give me a second, and I'll tell you.
The one. This is why I said it's
what this verse is.
Before the woman. It's the man, the freeman for the freeman, the slave for the slave, and the woman for the woman.
Correct.
That's from chapter 9, I think, right?
And it says just retaliation. I mean,
Exactly. This is what I'm saying. This is retaliation. This is not the war one. The others, kill them whenever you find them, are in defense in a warlike scenario.
But I'm talking about the mentality that goes into it. Even the justification verses, they will say that we're at war.
Absolutely. You're 100%. Yeah. I agree. Yes.
I mean, I know because they tell me that now.
Oh, okay. Okay, but the point that we're trying to make here is it's very, very difficult to find the run-of-the-mill, the moderate Muslim. If you, for example, you look at the covering of women, number one, the Quran does not tell women to cover excepting hands and face. The word hijab is not once used in the Quran in connection with clothing. And then if you look at reality, you will see hundreds of different ways a woman gets covered because it's not described anywhere. So
well, it depends on the interpretation of the Quran. Some versions of the Quran say to cover up your face and your head. It depends on the interpretation.
Well, no. It depends on the interpretation. Some people say cover your bosom means that you need to cover your head, cover your hair, but the hair is never mentioned in the Quran.
No, it says to rip the bottom of your skirts and draw them up over your bosoms.
Around you. But this is the outer cloak. This is something else again. But what I'm saying is there is no single description of what a woman is supposed to do, which is why you have the niqab, you have the chador, you have the burqa, you have the hijab, you have hundreds of different variations because it's not described anywhere. Now, you tell me where it is described and what the run-of-the-mill or the standard approach is to the covering of a woman. It doesn't exist.
Yeah, no, there is
why
none.
you have all these variations?
Actually, everything is described. Everything is described. Up to you what you want to believe. I mean, there is one hadith where Muhammad tells his daughter, where she's wearing thin clothes, that you are a young lady now, and you should wear thick clothes and cover everything except this and this, pointing to the hands and the face. There's another hadith where Aisha says that when the verse of niqab was revealed, the Prophet told us to cover our entire body with an outer garment, with the exception of eyes.
Exactly.
So it tells everything.
I don't know what hadith you're using either, because some hadiths aren't. They're not real. They're not sound, and they're used a lot in arguments against Muslims. And I wouldn't use those hadiths. But I don't know what hadiths you're reading.
And then it depends, which school of thought. Like in Hanbali school of thought, they say it's compulsory. That's why you have women in the Arabian Peninsula forced to wear the full burqa. On the other three schools of thought, they say that it's not compulsory, but wearing niqab is noble, and if it becomes a contention in the society whether they should or not, then it should be made compulsory. And these are the opinions of the major scholars of Islam.
Exactly. Now, I mean, if you look at something like circumcision, is it in the Quran? No, not at all. But it's mentioned in the Hadith. How much? Well, you don't know. It depends. And now, if you take it to extremes, look at prayer. The common factor is a Muslim needs to pray. How many times? Well, that depends. How, in what position? Now, the common factor is you need to put your right arm over your left one, and the right hand should cover the wrist. But now it starts getting confusing, because do you put your arms on your belly button, above the belly button, or below the belly button? There you have the different schools of thought who prescribe different areas how to put your arms in front of your belly.
Okay, I have a funny story if you want to hear it.
Go for it.
When I first converted to Islam, I was learning how to pray. So, of course...
You are ex?
Yeah, I'm an ex-Muslim.
Oh,
I lived in Pakistan and Qatar and... Yeah, anyway. So... when I first converted and I was learning all the prayers and everything, and it was important to me to be a good Muslim and to learn everything, so I started going to the mosque. I converted in Glasgow, at the Glasgow Central Mosque, in Scotland. So I went there for I think I was there for Juma prayers, because they really don't encourage women to go to the mosque. They really say, don't go, stay home and pray at home. But even the women were terrible. The first time I went, my toe was pointed the wrong way, and I had my hand on the wrong knee. And a woman came up and smacked my head and told me my prayers are invalid and to do them again.
Oh, shit. That's one way of encouraging, yeah.
For pointing my toe the wrong way. So it is. People, you never know. Like, there's no set. It was so confusing. I didn't know what to do or how to do it. And then when I hung out with the Shias, it was different than hanging out. Like, my ex's family, I was Sunni. So hanging out with the Sunnis was different than... I don't know. It was crazy, but yeah, I got slapped for not having my toe and my hand on the wrong knee or something.
How about could we not look at like sort of the talking heads who were brought onto the BBC and then discuss how representative they are and the stuff they say? Because like I can't. All I want is some sort of objective standard against which to compare what I'm being told, and I can't find that because whenever I try and find anything, so dispersed. I don't know what is not significant and what I should take and what is being deceptive, and it's just
everything the BBC tells you is lies.
That's how easy it is.
No, but I would love.
There is no person. There is no.
No. But I would love
Islam.
I would love someone to look at a popular sort of person who's always on BBC Question Times, or is always on the big questions, etc.
Take Adnan Rashid or Hamza Tsortsas. Are they representatives of Islam? No.
What's those names?
They are on the big questions all the time.
Yeah, but they claim to be, right?
Could you make a list of
there
these
was a
people?
time when Mo Ansar, there was every single day he was on some program. Is Mo Ansar a representative of Islam? No, absolutely not.
Just honestly, I would just look at the people who have the ability to issue fatwas, edicts, and stuff like that, and rulings. Honestly, I would just look at them. That's usually what I go by, but it's something. I mean, it's really hard to say because it's not like Christianity where there's some sort of centralization of power. So you're really not going to find somebody who speaks for the whole, but if you're looking at Britain, I'm not sure. I know that there's an Islamic Council of Britain, correct?
Yeah. Muslim Council of Britain, yeah.
Muslim Council or whatever.
Well, I don't know. We have a person who actually converted to Islam, and I'd be really interested in learning what convinced her into going into the religion. Like I try to listen to a lot of the tapes of the converts. They offer nothing in substance. What was I don't know, maybe it'd be a good idea to ask her some question as to what caused her to convert into this religion?
You want to know
Well,
what
It's not really a religion.
so
Right.
you want to know what would possibly possess a person that might be sane to
No, no,
join?
no, no. No, I'm trying to ask you, since you say you converted to Islam and then went back. I want to know what causes you, in your particular case, to convert to Islam.
Well, for me, I was raised Mormon, which is a very patriarchal religion where it's very totalitarian. They schedule all of your life. You really are isolated. You keep yourselves to yourselves. It's very much focused on virtue and modesty and chastity. So it wasn't a big leap to go from Mormonism to Islam. I met a boy is what happened, and I fell in love, and he told me he wouldn't marry me unless I converted. So I started studying. I took an Islamic name, Amira. I started wearing hijab, and eventually I was in niqab. But I believed it, hook, line, and sinker, and I felt like it gave me balance I didn't think I had, and I felt empty. And when I found the Qur'an and the rules, it was a big thing. I needed structure because I was a mess. I basically had daddy issues and I was a mess, and that's the real reason why I converted to Islam.
What's
But,
what's the thought process though? When if you meet someone and they say, "I'm not going to marry you unless you convert," are you not trying to find the truth when you search for religion? Because it's not really. If the reason you're converting is because you want someone to marry you, it doesn't sound like it's in order to find out the truth. It's just to tick that box.
Well, yeah. I had started studying it before we met, so I was already kind of interested in it because I had a Libyan uncle that kind of got me interested in it. Once we started seeing each other, he kind of put it like, well, if we have children, because we were talking marriage, he didn't say anything to me at first about converting, but once the children came into the discussion, he's like, you have to be Muslim. I can't have kids and them not be Muslim. And I really can't marry you if you're not Muslim. But it wasn't like a demand. It was more, it really would be better for us as a family. And I gave in, and I said, okay. So
would it be fair to say at the time you were vulnerable, you had several things going on,
Well, yeah,
and
you changed
you made a bad judgment? Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, any female convert, young, because I see them on YouTube all the time with the stars in their eyes. They're in love. They think it's going to give them rights, and it's going to set them up, and they're going to be pearls and princesses, and that's what I thought too.
Okay.
They all have daddy issues, and they're all lost.
I agree with you. Yeah, I agree with you. They offer nothing in substance. Some of them get convinced because they had friends and they were fasting in Ramadan, and she fasted in Ramadan, and that's the reason for her conversion. They offer nothing in terms of knowledge or what they learn, what it teaches them.
But if I had stayed in the West, it would be different. Like I was in the UK, but he took me to Pakistan, so I very quickly learned that wasn't what I signed up for. So it became crazy. My story became crazy, but a lot of converts, they get to stay in the West, so they get the best of both worlds. They don't understand Islam like anywhere else in the world but, say, in the U.S. The UK, it's a little bit different with Muslims. There are areas like I got spit on and yelled at by white people in Glasgow, by Asians in Dewsbury and Batley because I wasn't covering my face. So it depends on, there's areas of the UK that you really can't go to unless you're Muslim. You can, but if you're Muslim and you're not looking the right way or you're doing something you're not supposed to, they're not official Sharia patrols, but they will come and surround you and tell you what you're doing is wrong and harm you. Not your life, but they will. They will hit you, or they will, like my friend got pulled by her hair into a house because she wasn't covered. They didn't know her. So,
well, this is the thing. I hear like people say things like this, and then the next day the Guardian goes, "Oh no, it's just preposterous. It's just hyperbole. There's no such thing as no-go zones. It's all
do you
made
not
up."
see the media though in all the Western countries doing
Yes, yes, but I
don't understand why.
I just want something that I know is true. I just want to know what's true.
I wouldn't listen to Muslims because Muslims lie. They all do. All. Yes, all. And they will tell you...
No, you need to listen to Zakir Naik.
The Muslims will tell you that they're peaceful.
Brother's correct.
and they're not peaceful. But they listen to ex-Muslims. Those are the people you need to listen to.
No, but what I want to know is I want to listen to people saying what they're saying and then sort of like analyze what their claims are. That's what I want to do. You know,
Then you need to listen to the imams, each individual imam at the mosque, because they each will issue edicts, writings. You know, during the Friday prayers, the sermons, they can make them public sometimes, and they're pretty. I mean, there is no central area where one person is going to be saying anything that could speak for Islam.
Well, I
you're
think
looking for doesn't exist.
It would be very constructive to look at the people who appear on the media in the UK and then look at the claims they make and then deconstruct them, you know, because people like me, that's the only sort of access we have to Islam and criticizing it and analyzing it, and all we've got to go on is what these people say they are. And what, you know, and I want to know
and what you're watching happening around you.
Claims. You need to look at the claims and dissect that from the person. Look at the claims that the people make, and don't associate with a particular person, because this person can say something completely different the next day. Look at the claims and go and dissect those.
Oh no, I know this, but I think it'd be very useful for people who like me, who are atheists, who want to like sort of know how much bullshit they're being fed. And sort of, you know, on YouTube you get people doing response videos, okay? And I just want to target, you know, because I think the atheist community on YouTube could just fucking take these people to shreds if they knew who they were. And but I don't know. So you're saying that the local imams issue edicts?
No, the way that it works, if you're a Muslim, if you have a question, like if you go to your parents and say, okay, what does it mean? What does it say in 14:4, whatever? Then they will tell you go to the imam. If the imam doesn't know, he will go to the imam conference. So your imam is the gateway to understanding and getting answers to questions regarding Islam. But this
some
is
imams
only
are very
1%.
extreme. And some aren't.
Wait, only muftis can issue fatwas, correct?
Correct.
No.
The
Any
muftis do.
scholar who has studied fiqh can issue a fatwa.
Okay.
That would be not accepted by, well, it might be accepted by the local, like, mosque, like their local people, but it wouldn't be accepted by anything further than that.
Because the imam just, you know, leads the prayer, correct? He can't issue fatwas, correct?
Correct.
Right.
Okay. Just making sure on that point.
You see, it's just very difficult to get a grip on something when the only sort of voices you hear are just apologists all the time.
Yeah.
And it's
While you're watching everything burn around you.
yeah.
I don't understand. Why are you saying it's peaceful? But I'm looking with my eyes and I see around me how it's not. Explain.
Yeah, I live in a majority
they're not true
Muslim
Muslims.
neighborhood.
Yeah, right? They're not true Muslims.
They're not true Muslims.
I live in a majority Muslim area. You know Blackburn?
Oh, you're in Blackburn?
Yeah. Give me stories about Blackburn. Let's talk about Blackburn, because I'd like to see the opinion of an outsider, sort of.
I never lived in Blackburn. We used to go visit because we had family there. I've spent half my life in the UK. You would know by my accent, but I have. So it's
You
just
hide it
known,
well.
right? I'm pretty good. It's LA. I'm known, like we would go for parties and gatherings, and it's just a highly Islamic area. I never liked to go. I don't like Bradford or Blackburn. Too Asian, too. I don't know. We stayed in Essex mostly, away from a lot of the heavily Muslim areas.
See, I don't know specifically what the problem is because I never go to those areas. You know what I mean? So all I see.
For white people, it's fine. You're not going to have any issues.
But I think the problem is that people expect too much structure in Islam, and there is no structure. This is
what makes it insane as a rational person trying to come to grips and refute something that
Absolutely.
is like a nebulous.
Yes,
it's
absolutely.
really fucking
I
frustrating.
understand 100% what you're talking about, but
especially when at the same time, it's so necessary to sort of get a grip on something, but I can't because it's so fucking nebulous. And
It's like trying to refute Harry Potter, though, isn't it? It's not that difficult to call bullshit on it.
But no, it's not just that. Not just calling it
You're
bullshit.
talking about.
It's about trying to. I don't think I'm ever going to get. I don't think all of these Muslims are going to, convert and become atheists or become more rational. Is there going to be a cultural change? How would you affect that? How it's just like, oh my god.
Ban on Muslim immigration.
It's not just the religion, it's the culture too.
Vote Trump.
They're intertwined so heavily. Trying to separate the two is impossible.
Well, this is what annoys me. It's like things like race, religion, and politics. Like the definition is useless because those terms grew up in sort of like a post-Enlightenment Western thing, and Islam is just like this mishmash of everything, where the definitions that you would usually use become sort of useless because it's tribalistic, it's sort of ethnic, it's sort of, and it's just like, fuck.
And there's so many different sects. There's not just the three that people talk about. There's so many different ones, so you don't know. And especially when you're doing searches online, you'll find a lot of things that people will use against Sunnis that are Shia, and then your argument falls flat because they're like, well, I'm not Shia, so what are you talking about? They kind of apply, but they kind of don't. So you really have to know who you're arguing with, and it's hard to just say Islam and have that as a blanket statement for everyone because they're so different.
But can we even effectively analyze sort of the Muslim population and ask them sort of poll questions and see what they believe and their sentiments about things?
Do you want to? No, the end goal of Islam is to take over the world. Islam, not Sharia. Islam. That is the end goal. That is what they believe. That there's no big. It's not rocket science. That is what they believe is going to happen, and that's what they will make happen. All Muslims.
I don't know.
That's it.
Yeah, you are absolutely right. I mean, this is very clear from the all jurisprudence of Islam that people don't have to convert into a Muslim, but the authority of Allah has to be imposed on this entire earth. That's very clear. There's no doubt about that.
So how accurate is what's his name? Is it Richard Spencer? Robert Spencer?
Robert Spencer, yeah.
What do you think about him? Because all I hear is the fucking, is the fucking Muslim foundations in Britain saying he's a hateful bigot, etc., etc.
Not everything that one person says is the all correct or the all wrong. Everybody has a little bit of truth. Everybody has. It doesn't matter. Even Pamela Geller. There's a lot of things that even. Come on. It doesn't matter whether it's Tommy Robinson, whether it's the EDL, whether it's Britain First. There's always something that is true.
I'm not going to say that I'm going to discredit him outright. I mean, I've listened to a lot of what he has to say, but I want to know what you think of him and how accurate you think he is in general.
You can't generalize.
But there's more truth coming out of his mouth than you will ever get out of any Muslim
on
television in the UK.
Yeah, he tells it like it is. He doesn't especially his main concern is about Islam's treatment of non-believers. So if you're looking to hear about the Dhimma contract and what Islamic rule means for non-Muslims, then yeah, he's the guy to go to in my view.
It was interesting that he rejected Quilliam, or he dismissed it basically after spending a few weeks or months there.
So what do you think of people like Dr. Athar Hussein al-Azhari and do they have? Oh my God, it's horrible. I can't grip on anything. So it's like
a lot of those moderate Muslims that will preach moderate things. If you put them into an Islamic environment, like a Islamic country, they would not survive. And that's how I judge them. Whether if they're saying something that sounds really great, it sounds lovey-dovey and peaceful and wonderful, but if you take those same sentiments and you say them out loud, say in Pakistan, which is the failed Islamic State, but that it's not going to fly. Nobody is going to accept it, and that's how I know that what they're saying is absolute bullshit.
Well, I remember I looked at a recent interview you did on the Jinn. Was it recent? You did it with a person who was from the Quilliam Foundation, and he was talking about evolution, and it seemed that he was being sort of moderate, and his father was a Wahhabi cleric, and he got ousted by his own community.
Oh yeah, Osama.
So how common is that, being ousted by your own community?
If you're moderate, all the time.
So is Majid Nawaz, the Quilliam people, are they ousted?
Absolutely.
How much credibility?
Immediately, because as soon as you say, it's exactly what Skipper just said. As soon as you say something that is controversial, you're out. All of a sudden, you are declared a heretic, a hypocrite, and suddenly an apostate.
So
There
do you
are
think-
Muslims that want Majid Nawaz dead.
Yeah, but do you think so? You think Quilliam's got no credibility basically because he's got no acceptance?
French. It's French. Very, very French.
For non-Muslims and you know people and ex-Muslims and anyone that's not
Well, that's
actively
what
a Muslim.
I don't
then
care
yes.
about that. I want to know how effective it's going to be. It's not going to be effective if it's basically just like a pariah for the Muslim community.
Oh, it's not going to be effective within the Muslim community at all.
Okay,
Not at
so
all.
that's all I want to know. So
It's such a hopeless cause of trying to reform Islam that it makes me wonder how sincere Majid Nawaz even is, because he must realise how hopeless it is, you know, trying to reform it within the next 100 years. It seems to me just like a distraction from actually rejecting Islam. Oh, if you can point to these moderate Muslims, maybe we don't really need to.
So why the hell is the BBC putting up Quilliam if it's completely feckless and not doing anything and has no?
No. It's not quite. No. It's not quite like that. What Majid is doing in collaboration now with Sam Harris, for example, is showing.
Yeah,
that
Sam
there
Harris
is
is
a
bought into
problem.
it. Sam Harris is delusional on this as well. I've no idea why he's wasting his time with it.
Yeah, but the point that I'm trying to make is that both those people are showing that there is a problem. Something that a lot of people have not realized so far. Because if you only, what the BBC has done so far is put on Muslims. And if you only put on Muslims, you only get a one-sided story. And you're not going to get that there are actually problems within Islam. So if you're trying to get the objective story, this is exactly what you need to do. You need to go to ex-Muslims, or you need to go to somebody like the Quilliam Foundation. And now, what you need to appreciate is the Quilliam Foundation is only about fighting terrorist Islam. Okay, this is their thing. They want to get away from this image of Muslims automatically being identified as terrorists. That is what they're trying to do, and there they are effective. And they are showing that there is a problem in Islam. And that is something that they're working on. Whether they are going to reform Islam, I also doubt it. But
They
at
also
least
had another goal.
showing that there is something.
There are two independent problems, though, aren't there? There's the terrorism one, which is by far the smaller of the two, and there's Islamization, which is just the general creeping of Islam in society. And Quilliam is just a distraction from countering that.
No, Quilliam
Terrorism
has
is just
a goal which they actually have achieved, and I think you should realise this. One of their first goals was to get heard, not by the Muslim community, but by the British politicians. And now they have a seat within the British various commissions to put forward their ideas and point out what is and is not Islamic. And where it has failed in America is you have people in the Muslim Brotherhood who are actually directly advising Obama as to what is and what is not a Muslim. And can you see how far it failed that kind of information is to American governments? Versus Quilliam, who has now got into a position to talk to British government and tell them their view of what Muslims are like, as opposed to the Muslim Brotherhood of Great Britain.
So isn't that just going to obfuscate a problem if there is a problem?
No, it doesn't obfuscate it. What it is, it's bringing it to the fore. Up until Quilliam started, you were only getting the apologists for Islam who were saying Islam is the religion of peace and brotherhood, and we only want to do well, whilst behind your back they were stabbing you in the back.
Yeah, but now you're getting a bunch of people saying Islam can be reformed.
Yes, but they've also got onto the secret cabinet meetings and they're saying, well, Islam can't really be reformed, but we'll say that so we keep all the Muslims peaceful.
Well, how do you know they're saying that?
I don't know what they're saying. I just know they got a position on the bench talking to these people. And if anyone is saying, and look at ISIS and tell me that is a religion of peace, then I say they've got it very a deluded mind. And I don't think even Quilliam are saying ISIS is not Islamic. They're probably telling the government they are Islamic. They're too damned Islamic. They are the epitome of Islam.
Yeah, they're the real true Muslims.
They are exactly what Muhammad would have done back in the 7th century.
Very proud he would have been.
But they will not tell the 21st century Muslims that.
They won't tell the
Because they
British populace that either.
No, they won't. In fact, you've got the EEC, who's recently come out with a new prescription for the media saying you have to present all religions in a positive light. That'll become a law after the Brexit vote.
So the European Union, you mean?
The European Union bringing out a law stating all medias must present all religions in a positive light.
Is that the same thing as the banning of this so-called illegal hate speech, or is that a separate thing?
It's a separate thing.
How is this going to? Oh my God! How would you tackle an issue when you prevent any discussion about the issue?
This seems orchestrated, doesn't it?
It
This
is
whole
orchestrated.
entire thing seems very, very orchestrated.
You could, I mean, it's. I've read some of the actual wording of the law, and I wish I had been able to find it before I turned up. But it was saying things on the line of, we don't want to stifle freedom of speech, but all media programs must feature something nice about these religions, all religions. So what they can do is say, well, we'll have 20% of all programs about Muslims saying how wonderful they are giving money to the poor. But they won't feature anything that says that the same people in that mosque
are they just
going around joining ISIS in the
Are they
background.
just hoping that maybe the 3rd, 4th generation will somehow, assimilate and become a consumer capitalist and secular?
That is what they wanted. That is exactly what they wanted. That was admitted in that BBC ITV program when they were looking back at Islamophobia, which started off as a word to counteract, as a meme, people who dislike Muslims, with the intent that maybe 4 or 5 generations down the line, they'll become wilted down Muslims and happy. And
well, this is what's interesting. Like, I've been looking at some of the birth rate studies, and this idea that income is the sole factor that determines the birth rate is sort of refuted when you look at the studies I've looked at. The birth rate goes down, like say from the Pakistani Muslim woman, she goes from 7, and then over 4 generations it goes down to to 4, to 3, to 2.5, but it's still higher than the replacement rate. You know what I mean? So then you get this idea that
I think birth rate's going to be a bit too complicated to look as a single issue. It's based on sociology, and quite frankly, sociology is just a very poor tool to describe something which everybody can see is happening.
I'm interested in, if we want the whole thing is like we're expecting them to, one reason why it said that it's not a problem is because they're going to remain a minority, okay? But we always say that we need more immigration in order to support, our aging population. So that's just like going, okay, well, we need more immigration anyway, so we're going to keep importing first-generation people from these areas. Also, the idea is that as they become more wealthy, that they have fewer children. But then when you look at the studies, what they mean by normalizes, it means it goes towards 2. It's just like I don't.
It's only really going to affect what they believe in. What affects what they believe in is going to be what school of Islam they are following.
Well,
the biggest problem we had in the UK, and it started in the 80s, and it was the Saudi money promoting Wahhabism.
Well, what I'm interested in there is like the idea that if they remain a minority, maybe they'll disperse. The communities will disperse, and they won't remain so isolated. But that's not looking at everything I've seen. It's not what's going to happen.
No. What's happening is the demographics are people are moving into an area where they find like with like. The old saying, birds of a feather flock together, and then the ones who aren't quite fitting in with that society, the ones who have moved up the social ladder, they're moving out of the city areas, the city ghettos. But they're trying to stick together. They're not really moving into individual houses in individual streets. They're trying to sort of like get into individual towns, but a little bit spaced out because they haven't moved too many of them in yet. They like a community just like everybody else, and Islam is a very defined community at odds with the rest of society of England.
So, what do people think about the demographic idea? Do you think that's all scaremongering?
Not at all.
It all
Not at
depends
all.
if the Wahhabis get their money in to teach them to be their kind of Muslim. If you get a peaceful sect of Muslims who have
They still
peaceful
have
teaching,
more children though.
yeah, they can have as many children as
Yeah,
they like.
but the thing is, always if you have more children, you still like it's like the first generation could be quote unquote moderate, but even the third generation subject to the same risk of becoming quote unquote radical.
They only
So,
become radical when you got people teaching them to be radical.
no, I don't know. Some people, I don't know.
It's very easy to become radicalized by someone teaching you. My husband became radicalized because of a particular imam at a mosque he started going to, which in turn caused me to become radicalized. I was absolutely apologetic for terrorism. There was a time when I thought Jews were the worst things on the face of the earth. I mean, it happens. It sneaks up on you. You don't realize it. And when you're bombarded with it 24/7, it's like brainwashing. It happens. I never believed it would. I'm like a normal person who's moderate and just seemingly like a regular guy. How could that person become extreme? It doesn't make any sense. In a
That's what I
relatively
mean. Like all of
He was
these.
accused, but he had to be the light to set you off. If he hadn't have been around that radical imam, you probably would have remained a peaceful person.
But it's not feasible that all these people are going to disappear.
Yeah, but then
No,
you have
they're
the other
influenced by
influence.
Wahhabism.
Is it just?
Yeah, but what I've seen, if you go to Riyadh, if you go, like, this is what I have seen personally, all right? That in the Middle East, for example, the kids don't care about Islam anymore. They're more worried about their phones. They don't want this restriction. They want to go and flirt. They want to go and party. They want to go and have a life. They're not interested in this secluded Islam. Everybody stays with themselves and by themselves and and then you marry the girl that was picked for you and then you have a family and then this carries on forever. They're not interested in that. That's why the parents that send the kids overseas, for example, to get an education and they come back, they're completely different. They're not interested in Islam. This is what I see in Abu Dhabi, in Dubai, in Doha, in those places. In Kabul, for example, is completely different. There you have the influence, but there people actually enjoy the way of having a structured, what Skipa said, this rigorous routine that you have.
That's what I was
It's
trying to
different.
say. That's what attracted me to Islam was the routine. I was trying to think of the word for it. The structure and routine I really liked. And so you mentioned that. Sorry, go on.
And it differs. And this is what I see in the different regions, where, for example, in Malaysia, you have like a 50, well, it's actually 60-40, where most of the people are not interested. And then you have 40% who are saying, no, we need to go back to Islam.
Well,
And in Jakarta, people forget there's nothing Islamic about Jakarta. But in other areas, in Aceh, for example, you have exactly the opposite. There the people are saying, no, we need it, we want it. So,
But then look what happened in Iran. Iran was very westernized. The women didn't even wear hijab, and then the revolution. Look at it now.
Yeah,
It's
but
scary.
Christopher
Are you
Hitchens
from
was
Iran?
saying that Iran was going back to being secular again because
Yeah.
of the the Ayatollahs were sending all their youngsters to get killed in the Iraq wars, and there's been a revolution of the youngsters to have their iPhones and to do the dancing in the street and be.
I don't know. Like you heard this with the Arab Spring, and everyone was really positive about it.
the Arab Spring does not really exist. I mean, this is a euphemism, which is a misnomer.
That was bullshit. There was never really an Arab Spring. It's bullshit.
Skipo, are you from Iran?
No.
Oh, okay. Because I went to school there, and I remember the good old days in Tehran and in Kabul, for example, when girls were not wearing this stuff. And it was only that they were sick and tired of the tyranny of the Shah, for example, that they decided, okay, let's go for Islam. It must be better than the Shah, not realizing that it was going to be worse. And now in Iran, I mean, we had the Green Revolution 2 years ago, and now it's starting again. That people don't want this.
It's scary though that it can happen, like that.
Yeah, this is true. Yeah, but now look at Bahrain. I mean, look at the way that the people are saying. The Sunnis are saying, listen, we are the minority, but you need to go according to what we are saying, and you need to, stick to yourselves if you want to be Shia. And now the Shia are saying, yeah, but we are the majority, so we want a say in the whole matter. And they're saying, no, Jacques Fari, we are the emir, we have the government, we have the law, so you need to do what we are saying. And there I mean, it's so volatile. where people are now starting to stand up and say, listen, we've seen that the people can make a difference. I mean, it's not going to be long before Saudi will change as well.
I really hope so. I don't know.
Okay, should we continue with some different topics, or is that something that we should discuss and pursue a little bit further?
I don't know. You made it sound as though it's a positive ending to that, but I still don't see the positive. It's just, I don't know. I don't know how to deal with it.
Well, the sooner you leave the EU, the better it is. It's going to be for you. I'll tell you that.
I won't go home because of the EU, because of what's happening with. I won't. I'll stay here in America where I have free speech.
Well, I mean,
Can you give me some tips as to how I can get into America? Especially if Trump gets in.
Just
I don't know.
Just say
Be a dual citizen.
Just say that you're a persecuted white person.
There you go. It's going to be like that pretty soon.
Is it like is that hyperbole or because I've had people like spit at me on the street and shit, so I don't know.
The good message is never be silent when you believe in something that is right. Always
This is the
keep in
thing.
mind.
This is the problem. I don't know what is right. This is just this confluence of information just splurging at me, and you don't know what.
Then don't
listen to others. Go
Tony
and make up your own mind.
Exactly, and look with your eyes. What do you see, and what does your gut tell you? Not what people are saying to you with their mouths in your ears, but what do you see?
Exactly.
And if you want to protest against being attacked in the street, you take it up to the police again and again and again and again, just like Tony Robinson is, until finally there are so many people shouting at the police, enough, stop protecting the violent criminals. You've just got to keep at it.
What do you think of I'm in this group, Open Oxford on Facebook, and there's a lot of people like criticizing, like there's a lot of weird they call it pink washing, where they say gay rights in Israel is just like a veil to disguise how horrible they are, and you get all of these Muslim apologists like saying stuff like, hang on.
Universities have been infected by possibly one of the worst kind of movements imaginable.
And Oxford University is the epicenter.
Yeah, the social justice warrior, and all I can suggest you do is look up Sargon of Akkad's petition on change.org and sign it. Let's get these people banned from university. Shut them up. Or at least have the university recognise that this perversion of lies equals truth be booted out firmly. You can have an opinion and you can argue about opinions, but you shouldn't have people go around stating a lie as a truth.
Well, what do you think about the term, throwing around Islamophobia?
Islamophobia is a word that never existed.
How's it different to anti-Semitism?
If there is Islamophobia, it really is Muslims attacking other Muslims because they fear the Islam that they worship.
It's just a created term.
I don't have a bad fear about Islam. I don't have a phobia about it. I recognise the evil parts within it, which I just think are disgusting, and it's as simple as that. But Muslims who fight, or Sunni Muslims who fight Shia Muslims, are doing it purely because they don't like their version of Islam. They have a phobia about it.
Isn't a phobia like something you're afraid of without cause?
Exactly.
Like irrational fear.
There is no reason for a Shia to attack a Sunni. None at all. They both worship the same books. The only disagreement they seem to have is over who should have been the first caliph.
Yeah, and I made the point that a phobia is something that you stay away from, and that is not the case. So the whole thing is a stupid word. It doesn't exist. All right. Anything else that we need to do before we go to a different topic?
I actually somewhat embrace the term Islamophobe rather than the term anti-Muslim bigot, because, well, for one thing, the term anti-Muslim bigot is ridiculous because a bigot is somebody who's intolerant of all other belief systems, not just one. But one meaning of phobia, although it's a less used meaning, is just having a strong dislike of. So by that definition, I do identify as an Islamophobe.
But a strong dislike is a hatred, isn't it?
Yeah.
What's wrong with hating something?
Nothing whatsoever.
Nobody
You
said
have a right to
something
dislike it.
wrong with it.
It was just used as a way to shut the debate.
Exactly. The same as this racism, hiding behind the word. It's stupid.
Yeah, there's many things that happen in daily politics which are not racist, but people get shut down for it. Like you heard about the Pegida rally that was happening recently in Rotherham, and the unbelievable story that the police were actually telling Pegida that they couldn't march there because they had decided that they had banned all marches. And then they said they'd had banned marches that started in a place where Tommy Robinson wanted to start his march from. And then the day before the rally started, they said they'd given the starting place to Muslims.
And did you see the Periscope video where they wanted to move him on because he ordered a bacon sandwich?
No, I haven't seen that. But the police are just like unbelievably being terrible. And this is the same police force that covered up the rapists that were going on.
How prevalent is that, do you think?
Oh yeah, the Asian rapist, right? The Asian rapist.
They were covering up the Hillsborough tragedy.
No, but how
They
prevalent
covered
do you
up the miners' strike and the damage they did there. They covered up the damage they did to the hippies when they closed down Stonehenge as a rock site. So how often does it pervade the country? Well, certain boroughs.
How prevalent is Rotherham though? Like, because when you hear it, it seems like
It was over 14. It was over 1400.
quite a lot. It's quite.
1400.
no, but is it happening
Yeah.
elsewhere?
Yes, it is.
There was a Derby too, I think, in Derby as well, but
There's
it wasn't
been
to like the
number.
magnitude.
Look at a couple of months ago in Cologne. What did the police
I only
do?
ever saw
Nothing.
like 15-year-olds getting married. I never saw any child abuse.
It was quite young. They were picking anyone who was coming out of
But
the care homes.
there's an element of it which is like, you know, the non-Muslim is the, you know, the disdain. They wouldn't do that to a Muslim girl, obviously. They'd only do that to the white girls.
Well, it wasn't just white. They target blacks as well and Asians. It was anybody who wasn't in their community. Everybody else was fair game.
All the Kafirs were fair game.
Well, I think they would have targeted even Muslim girls if they'd been in care homes. I don't think they really cared. It was just easy prey.
Well, I mean, if they were Sunnis, I mean, technically, I guess, like, you know, Shia girls would be okay too, right? Because they're also infidels, right? So,
But that was the culture they were brought up in, and yes, it is a culture that is heavily steeped in the religion.
So, you see, you couldn't even say that on TV. You'd just be like, "Wow." Everyone was just like shut down. Even me, I sort of shut down there because it's like, you know, you can't think that unless.
No kidding. I'm wondering whether I should read out a letter I got from the BBC recently to you. I know. Would you like to hear it?
If you wish to share it, has anyone else heard it?
No, I haven't told anybody. I only got it a few days ago. And it's regards to a chappie called Doton Abiao. He hosts a program called Radio 5 Live Up All Night. And I wrote to them stating I was outraged about him cutting off somebody during an interview, stating the Rotherham
Oh yeah, I saw that.
rapist
Ryan.
had not happened. Well, this is the reply they had to that. Thank you for getting in touch with us about this. And this part of the interview had been focused on American fight against terrorism. And when the guest made a broad statement about sexual abuse by Muslims in the north of England, the presenter interrupted him as these comments did not feel appropriate or relevant to a wider interview. Our presenter challenged this broad generalization with the words, "That's not true." And it is only after this challenge that the guest specifically made reference to Rotherham. I would like to state the letter now. That is exactly what happened. It was afterwards that he said Rotherham. Now, the letter goes on to say, it was not the pretender's intention to challenge the well-documented case of Rotherham, and we are sorry if his choice of words gives this impression at this point. Once it was clear that his guest did not want to bring the discussion back to US affairs, Doton ended the interview acknowledging we have our own issues here and we leave that to one side. That sentence is a lie. The letter I sent to them included a video of the actual conversation that I saw on the internet, and those statement acknowledging we have our own issues, etc., was not on that video. Nor was the discussion even attempted to be brought back to US affairs.
Well,
The presenter was just having a go, saying, "No, we're not talking about this. It's beneath me. It didn't happen," and he just silenced him.
well, this is the thing. Like, they're so scared of the reaction.
That's why I brought it up for you. It is evidence of what you're saying. If somebody has a view contrary to the political correctness that the BBC wants to give out to the rest of the listening media, they'll cut you off. They'll just rubber stamp you as a racist bigot, and you're gone.
Well, to be fair, you were wasting your time talking to the BBC in the first place.
No, the way I looked at it, I knew they were going to cover up.
I'm talking about people who phone into these freaking Five
But it
Live
wasn't. It
programs.
was in. It wasn't
interview.
actually. It was a guy from Ryan. Ryan. He goes around with Milo Yiannopoulos a lot. I saw that Gadursky or something.
Yeah, they wanted to talk about Trump, and then it got on to
I just
him putting up a restriction against Muslims.
don't
Until they
get
find out what was going
why
on.
anybody bothers to phone into these BBC programs. I mean, they've got the most biased presenters in the world.
Because you just want to. Because the point of those things is you want to hear what the normal person thinks.
You're not going to get that on the BBC.
Well, this is the thing. Like, so occasionally you hear someone who comes on like after like question time. You know, any answers, and you hear them come on, and it's sometimes nice to know that other people think in a similar way to you. And that's the whole point of it. They're trying to control that, to sort of try and control what the normal opinion is. You get these people who are like completely Radio 4. You know what I mean? Everything, you know, they're like David Mitchell basic clones. Little David
Can we
Mitchellites.
like move back into Islam and away from British broadcasting?
Well, what happens in Britain is going to happen in Germany if it hasn't happened already.
That's the one thing
no.
America gets right. They don't have a national broadcaster, so at least they don't have this cosy relationship between the government and the national broadcaster saying what the government wants them to say.
Can we go to the tolerance of Muslims in Egypt? Because this is the background that you are seeing, where
That's a
in
real
Egypt, Muslims attack Christians. So we always hear that Islam is so tolerant, that Muslims were asked to please invade Spain so that Jews and Christians could live in harmony. This is the reality of what is happening in Egypt.
I remember seeing. I was watching an interview between Richard Robert Spencer and some other guy, and he was saying about how there was a genocide of Muslims in Spain. But I was like thinking, hang on a sec. Well, isn't the whole point of that before that, about 800 AD, there was a huge fucking jihad going into Spain? It's like, he was defining Islam as a just religion, and so this was all like the validation he needed. Like, where does it end? When will Muslims not be victims?
No, this is impossible. It doesn't matter whether you talk about Spain, whether you talk about the Crusades, whatever you talk about, it's always that the Muslims are the victims, and they are the ones being victimized, and they have to defend themselves. And
So, what's the oldest testimony we have of people living in the Judea region?
So,
I would say the Israelites.
So how can you ever have a Muslim population that is, quote unquote, always it's always a powder keg? Because if they're always a minority and they feel this tension with the outer community, and it's always potentially going to fucking hit off. So basically you're importing ethnic tensions for countless generations.
Well, they are correct. They are the victim. The Muslims are the victim, and they have been right from when Muhammad migrated to Medina. They went through slavery, civil wars, internal, but they
always persecuted.
but they point fingers at the others. Islam has been worst for the Muslims.
It's interesting. The Abrahamic religions all seem to have this sort of victim mentality. You've got Christians kind of have a victim mentality as well, that they're Christianity's always going to be persecuted, and Jews are always going to be persecuted.
You see, what's weird is like this again, this schizophrenic characteristic. But one thing I did notice, which was quite interesting, was the Qur'an version of the story of Cain and Abel. The idea that Abel provokes Cain to kill him, and in doing so, Cain takes upon himself Abel's sin, and so he's guaranteed to go to paradise because he provoked Cain to kill him. This is weird. You don't see that sort of active martyrdom in Christianity. Christianity is more like, you know, the complete victim, completely the lamb. Do you know what I mean? And it's a strange difference where in Islamic martyrdom, like from that example, it seems like there's this idea of, you know, provoking the oppressor to crush you. Do you know what I mean? Like being provocative, and then the reaction is justifying the, you know, the idea that you're the oppressed. I don't know.
Before I forget, I just want to mention: do you guys want me to? I read the first 50 pages of Ibn Hisham. Do you want me to give you the short summary later on of what I learned?
Oh, absolutely, anytime. No, that's brilliant.
Okay. Well, I'll get my stuff together. I took a few notes, so just in case. Okay. Before we end.
Right, then I'll move on one down. This is also a Washington Post article. The question: are Muslim countries more violent? What do you think the answer is?
Oh, they're going to say no, because the reasons that they're violent is due to geopolitics.
No, they actually say yes, because they looked at the difference. Can you see the stars? Yeah. They looked at the different clashes, and they looked at all the different issues and whatever you want to call them, and they found that, yeah, there's a lot of Muslim majority countries involved in them, and it doesn't really matter which ones you're talking about.
It's all the fault of the West, though, isn't it? Because we keep attacking them.
Yeah, of course. They're only defending themselves.
It's all Israel.
But they're looking at, like, Indonesia, India, Bangladesh, Egypt, They have been relatively quiet for quite a long time. But in the others, like in Syria, Iraq, and Afghanistan, I mean, it's been absolutely crazy.
Bangladesh has been quiet apart from the people getting hacked to death for daring to speak out against Islam.
Yeah, but it's not a real war, and it's not.
Well, it's pretty violent, though.
What do you think about Singapore? Because that's more of a dictatorship, so it's difficult to see what the effects of Islam there than, you know, just being.
It's so tiny, people don't care.
Yeah.
And there you have, what's his name? Prince. What is this prosperity guy? He's got his own TV channel, Daystar, and things like that. I mean, he's absolutely amazing. He's a Christian guy who says, send me money, and then whatever you give me is going to be given back to you by Jesus and so on. So they allow this kind of thing. No, not Christian Prince. No. Joseph Prince. There you go. It's Joseph Prince, and he managed to, and he wanted a new church. So he said, listen, guys, I want a new church. Can you please send me money? And he managed in one weekend to raise $19 million to go and build his new church. Yes, that's fucking amazing. Okay, next thing about Cairo. And this is quite funny. I love this. I love this page because they bring out, you know, what happens in real life. And this is about people in Egypt who want to get married because it is such a high level and such an important thing in Islam. They go and they get into debt, like heavily, just to get married, because you can't only invite your parents and friends and family in that. You need to invite everybody, and for that you need to pay, number one, a lot of money to your wife because she's an object, and then of course you need to pay for the festivities and everything. So this is quite funny that people are getting into debt just to comply with Islam. Now, this is an issue where a lot of people say, well, this has nothing to do with Islam, and this is what's this guy with 5 doctorates and 5 professorships, and who's always on CNN? I've got a block. Anyway, there's a guy who's a total idiot who constantly says, Female circumcision is not a problem of Islam. It's merely a problem of sub-Saharan Africa. And then you have something like this, where a lot of girls actually die from FGM, because I call it female genital mutilation and not female circumcision, because it's mutilation. And this is something that happens a lot in different countries because it is in the Hadiths where it is sunnah for the woman to go and be cut where the two circumcised parts meet. That's what it says in the Hadith. And this is why a lot of people still go against this and still go with this, and it's very difficult to go against it. And I've tried to get our friend, a gynecologist, on here to talk about her experiences with this here in Europe, where girls come to her and say, listen, can you please repair this because somebody botched it? And there are parents, there are fathers coming, can you please circumcise my daughter? And she has to check it out. Pakistan advisory. This is also a contentious issue, and I found this very interesting, that this is like like in practical life, it happens, where the Pakistan, and this is what Nebulous will enjoy, because the advisory body in Pakistan suggests that wives are allowed to be beaten lightly. So this is the kind of thing, does this guy now speak for Islam? Maulana Muhammad Khan Sharani. And if the wife wants to get beaten hard, well, then you're allowed to do that too. But it's so typical. Do not break any bones or cut her skin or leave any marks. Do not hit her vindictively, but only for reminding her about her religious duties. The religious duty to open her legs, and that's it. It's, it's unbelievable.
What do you think of the conversation between Majid Nawaz and Gadsad, and that I linked in the sidebar there? Because I think it's revealing. Like there's this, just like when you try and talk to Majid about Islam, there's like a wall that you can't get past.
I do not know. I don't follow him. I do not know.
I've linked it in the sidebar. You'll hang on.
Well, there it says Twitter.com Majid Nawaz status 6557. What does it say?
Well, it's a conversation, and it'll come up, and it's about, they're trying to, and Majid's position is, yes, do consider this. If you think reinterpretation is unrealistic, good luck apostatizing 1.6 billion Muslims as a realistic option.
Oh, this has nothing to do on beating the wives.
Oh no, sorry, no, no.
Because I was thinking, what does this now have to do with beating wives? Okay, so you want to talk about Majid Nawaz again?
Yeah, because it's like, I guess, I don't know. If you don't want to, I guess he's beaten to death.
Well, the thing is, nobody really knows what he said here. So if you say, well, here's a link, then if everybody clicks on this now, then everybody's gone. And then, so I think it's a lot easier if you say, okay, this is what was said, this is what he suggested, this is the situation, and this is what was said. Then we can talk about this, because at the moment we've got absolutely nothing.
Well, it's about the feasibility of reforming Islam and the disagreements about that, basically. And he thinks that Majid Nawaz's postmodernist trying to get this postmodernist sense of, non-literal interpretation of the Qur'an and the Hadiths is unrealistic. So that's what the disagreement's about. And then Majid basically, like, you hit a brick wall, and basically Majid thinks, well, you can't, this is the only option. If you can't reform it, then, it's fucked. So,
no, while we're at this...
Alasa, you're cutting.
There's an excellent article by Shahid Khaldoon. Apparently, there's a hashtag that viral by Muslim women, which says, try beating me lightly. And it was picked up by the BBC and a whole bunch of liberal media about the Muslim women responding to this ideology. And this is where he talks about the moderate Muslims. And he says that it does do no good trying to make a mockery of the clerics, and he writes down right in front the whole verse about beating wives. He says not a single person has ever touched this verse at all, which clearly states that a man can beat his wife. And he points out that the biggest thing in that verse, which says men are in charge of the wives. So that's the story of modern Muslims. They do not confront.
Yeah, but the thing is that everybody says it doesn't say hit, it says leave them, divorce them.
No, beat them. It says beat them.
434 has, okay, it starts off by saying men are in charge, and then it continues and blah, 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 and the first step, the second step, and the third step. And then the translation and interpretation goes anything from scourge them, hit them, physically whatever them, and the other variant is leave them. And people like Dr. Haggard, he says no, it means to leave them. This is what it should say.
Well,
No.
that's a nonsense.
I know, but I'm just giving you the bandwidth of the different interpretations.
That's the verse Max
And
has
then
used to beat me. He used that excuse. That was his reason for beating
I know,
me. He
this
didn't
is
have
the
dinner ready.
interpretation. Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Then what about the hadiths? There are several hadiths.
Yeah.
That's the best mess up ever.
How common do you think that is
mean-
within the UK then?
I mean, that should be changed too. A man will never be asked as to why he left his wife.
Domestic violence in Muslim,
Like,
very common.
Well, how
Very,
would I?
very
It's the
common.
thing. It's the thing. You can't know because it's all hush hush, and it's just impossible to get any information. Because if you find anything, and they'll just discredit it as not official statistics, and then if you find statistics, it's labelled as Islamophobic.
Right. And you know what's more common though is rape of little boys, not
I
little
don't know.
girls, little boys.
Yeah. Especially in Afghanistan, they have a term for it. Bachabazi. That's what it's called. Bachabazi.
Almost, I say this. My ex-husband and almost all of his friends growing up in Qatar and Iran, all of them were buggered. All of them. By men in positions of power. And we're talking about, a group of like 30 people, like 30 men that he was in this group with his parents and stuff.
Yeah, but the funny thing is, look what it says here. He told NBC News violence is forbidden by Islam.
Yeah, but what would he consider violence? That's it. It'll probably have a weird
That's the whole point.
definition.
So, it's down to interpretation. So there is no mainstream here.
Well, no, he's right. The violence, according to him, is in haram. The actually word they use is tashaddud. Like they say people claim that it allows tashaddud on women. Tashaddud in actual means torture. So here there's something lost in the translation. What he's saying that the torture is not allowed in Islam. But disciplining by the way of beating is not torture according to
That's what I mean. Yeah,
Exactly, because you're not chopping off a head.
So this isn't what I'm talking about with the interpretation. There is like a understanding of that where he's sort of apologized for it and not really being genuine because he must know that he's being deceptive.
That's the norm though. That's what they all do. I mean that's
Well,
what I'm saying. They're disingenuous.
Well, unless the sheikh can tell us how do you stone a person non-violently? I'd like to know that.
Well, it's probably like, it's more violent for them to live with their sin or some shit like that.
Or maybe you first chop the head off, which is painless, and then you stone them.
Yeah, give him an anesthesia.
I wished death on my own gay brother because I didn't want him to live with that sin. I didn't want him to burn in hellfire forever.
You're serious?
I wanted him to die. Yes. I thought it was better for him and his soul that he would not live as a gay person.
Yeah, but that means you were completely brainwashed.
Yes, I was completely brainwashed.
So how common is that sort of mindset?
For a lot of
Wouldn't he go to hell anyway if he were gay?
No, but because
Yeah.
you can take. No, can't you take the sin upon yourself if you kill? Like that's like a. Isn't there
Yeah.
something?
There's something if you kill him for his sin briefly, I don't know, it's an act of mercy killing. But instead of him, because at the time he was, well, I hadn't known that he was having sex with men at the time. Like, I didn't know that gay guys had sex with guys. I just thought they were gay and they didn't do anything about it. But before he would act on it, I wanted him to die.
Well, that's just
That's how naive I was, right? You know?
But it's interpretation once again, because a lot of people tell me that it's not be gay, it's the act of gay sex.
Mormons
in
are the
public.
same way. You can be gay, but as long as you don't act on it,
But
you're
exactly.
fine.
how common is that interpretation?
No, it's hypocritical. It's stupid.
It's not. Because one requires
Muslims
action.
don't
and
believe
one
gay people
doesn't.
exist. From most of what I've always been told, they just don't exist. It's like a lust of the flesh. It's shaitan. So you shouldn't ever feel that way. And if you feel that way, then it's shaitan.
Wow.
It doesn't even exist. It's not an issue.
Like how?
But people have different
this is
ideas.
what
Some people
this is
believe it
what-
does exist.
Like even the polls that they do in the UK, I can't even trust them anymore because there's definitely been a sort of like I've noticed like the number of people refusing to answer the question or putting like ambiguous answers that's increased over the last 7 years, and so it's like you can't even rely on surveys anymore because you're not going to get an honest answer on any sort of polling data you do. So it's like fuck's sake, how are you meant to assess anything?
Do you see the point I'm trying to make, though? I love my brother with everything I have. But a violent end to his life, I thought was loving. Do you see? And so these people, when they say violence is forbidden or you can't, you could beat your wife, only to a certain degree, to them, that's kind and loving because you're disciplining your wife because your soul and your eternal salvation is also dependent on your wife's behavior. That's why it's your job to discipline her. So it's a big deal, but they do it, and they're not necessarily terrible people. They really genuinely believe that it's good. They're disingenuous as fuck when they're talking to non-Muslims.
Yeah, no, but what you are highlighting here is exactly the problem. Yeah, this is the whole
And
point.
nobody
that
talks about
you can't
that.
demonize the Muslims themselves. You have to go and demonize the bad ideas.
I love so many of them, and I can't have anything to do with my ex's family or because they'll take my children. They already took my children once. But I still have individual relationships with a lot of them. I love them genuinely and dearly, even though they hold these ideas that are abhorrent to me. But I held the same ideas at one time, and there's hope because I changed. I saw the light. It took me becoming an atheist to do it.
But that's not, again, that's not going to happen for
No.
most people, and most people, they double down rather than,
But they think that they're coming from a place of, it's really weird to think that violence is coming from a place of love. But when you believe that the second they die, they're going straight to Jannah, it's like it is love. Because it's an act of kindness. Actually, Christians are fucking fake as hell because if they genuinely believed in heaven, they would want their children to die and go straight to heaven. Wouldn't that be amazing for eternity? Why would you want them to suffer on earth?
Yeah.
So it's like but Muslims really take that more to the extreme. They really genuinely believe it. They smile before they blow themselves up because they know they're going straight to paradise. They really, really believe that. So when you have a religion, the people that are willing to kill themselves for their beliefs, unlike Christianity now, it is way more dangerous. And there is no reformation.
This is what one of the guys
It's why
said,
don't
win against the West because we enjoy death, you don't.
well, I don't understand. So demographics is a problem because it's not just going to like disperse out. I've never seen any reformation that becomes less orthodox. Really, have you? Do you know? I thought Islam's in the middle of a reformation right now, which started in the 1800s. They became more orthodox.
The Reformation into the 7th century.
of the 7th century.
To the 7th century.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. That's what I usually see. Reformation usually means more literal.
Yeah, and this is exactly what other people are saying. No, you can't have that, because if you do that, it's going to die. And these are the two options. Either it goes the opposite way and goes into the 21st century, or it's going to die. It's that easy.
Will it die? Does it have to die? I don't know.
Well, is it... Okay, die, I mean, is like, even horoscopes haven't died completely, but to me they're dead. But what I'm saying is that the influence of Islam is going to wane.
I don't know. Well, Christianity died as soon as it accepted the post-Enlightenment, consensus. Maybe it would have survived if it had doubled down.
Okay, but look at the discussions that people are having, because there's a Islam channel, I think it's Islam UK or something, that you have on satellite TV. 99 of the topics that are being discussed there are about relationships. Because what Skepo is saying is exactly true. A lot of women are completely lost when it comes to relationships. So they call him and they say, am I allowed to do that? Is he allowed to do that? Can I go there? Can I do this? Can I look this way? Because people are really confused what Islam wants them to do. And then they call in, and then they go, and some idiot on the TV is telling them, yeah, but you're not allowed to do that, you're not allowed to do that, you can't wear makeup, and blah, blah, blah. And if you look at him, no, rather don't stay at home, pray at home if you think that you're going to be tempted or something like that. It's stupid. And this is why it's dying, because people look at reality. It doesn't work.
I don't know about that. I think people have an amazing capacity for delusion. I don't think progress of history, that whole Hegelian linear shit, I don't know. I think there's peaks and troughs, and maybe it will die out, but I think the short term isn't very hopeful. I think something really constructive that you could do, maybe just for my behalf, is make a list of these channels where you see things like, and people who appear like on Prime Minister's Question Time and places like that, like talking heads, like, because I just really want like a list of people I could start to like.
No, but it's only the UK. I mean, you could do that for every country.
Anywhere, I don't mind. Your list, anyone's list. Anyone could do this.
Yeah, but then you have 200 lists of 200
I don't mind.
countries.
I just rather have a just because all I'm getting is apologist shit when I type it in.
No, this is what you do. You take them one step at a time.
But I don't have a list.
Generalize.
I don't have a list of people who are whatever.
Are you trying to decide whether to accept Islam?
No.
What are you trying to decide?
I'm trying to analyze it and then like see who the big talking heads are and then deconstruct them and see who's genuine. Huh?
You're looking for people that are accepted on mainstream media, right? That would be considered like the go-to talking heads of Islam, but they don't exist. There might be like some moderates, like we said before, that people may watch them on television, but had those moderates been placed in any other Islamic country, they would be murdered, is what they're saying. I mean,
I think he's just trying to kill himself.
I don't know. Even if you made a list of like people that, like you said, like the talking heads, I don't know. It would be difficult.
Don't use the people. Use the points. Use the arguments. Use the claims that they make. Don't use the names.
I don't know. Start off by looking at Memory TV. Watch a few of their videos, really, and you'll find.
I've already subscribed to that. Yeah.
I would also suggest that maybe you would look at the debaters. I don't know the Islamic ones, but if you check up J. Smith verses, it will list up a few Islamic preachers who will preach against him and argue their case for Islam. That's the thing I think you're trying to do, isn't it? To find names of people on the Islam slide to find out what their arguments are.
Yeah, I want to know what the common arguments are, what they say.
To find who are their William Craig Smiths and whatever. You know who the Hitchenses are. You want to find out who the Ken Hams are of the Islam. In which case, I would say look at Al Jazeera, they will have the prominent Muslim people speaking out there. You'll find them all on YouTube if you just spend a bit of time looking. But as for me giving you exact names, they're so stupid I don't even remember their names, their arguments. Last one I watched was all about number 19 being a mystical number in the Qur'an. I mean, they're so stupid, it's unreal.
And honestly, I think that you should just look at the classical text too. Like, they spell it out clearly for you. Whether that be the four schools of jurisprudence, those four founders, or Ibn Kathir. If you're looking for somebody more modern, I would look to Maududi. I think that he spells it out clearly in his works.
If you want to find the
shouting names at me,
if you want to find the little fish, if you want
this
to
is
start on
really
little
the
fish,
problem. Like I hear people quote like names. You use blah, 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 and it's like all these Islamic names and Arabic names. I'm like, okay, yeah.
if you want to find the little fish, keyword dawah, that'll help you.
Oh God, I got into an argument with a ginger Muslim in Blackburn. It was fucking awful. He's doing dawah. It was awful.
That'll be on the street level. That'll be you'll find places like the London Dawah Movement or Mission Dawah as they call themselves. You'll find Dawah Man. You'll find Ali Dawah.
This is the thing, like
they're always ginger, aren't they?
Yeah, gingers. I guess they're already outcast, so it's easier.
Was that Fontaine?
I don't know. Like it's hard for me to because they say tolerate, but I can't tolerate it. It's just so stupid.
If you want to meet them face to face, then go to Speaker's Corner. They all hang out there because there's a mosque nearby.
But you know what I mean? Like, how can you tolerate something so stupid? And if you don't tolerate it, it's violent. It's
because they believe in it. They don't regard it as stupid. They
no, I'm not talking about them. But the government expects everyone else to.
Yeah, but the government have their own vested interest. They lie because they're politicians.
The most cringeworthy thing they did recently was after the Paris attacks. Theresa May stands up at the dispatch box and says they had nothing to do with Islam, and the entire House of Commons cheers her for that comment.
Yeah, but Clingshaw did that.
Clinshaw.
Oh yeah, Cling, yeah. How's he doing, by the way?
Bad. Horrible.
How so?
I can't get into it, so I'm sorry. I promised I wouldn't. No, it's terrible. It's really sad. Okay, let's get into the next one.
Muhammad Ali, isn't it? They say Muhammad Ali was the most wonderful of Muslims at promoting peace, and then somebody else has come up and said, but he's racist, a bigot, and some of the things he said in 1964 are absolutely horrendous.
Yeah.
But he was just a boxer. I don't know why people make such a big deal. Was he really a Muslim, or was this just a propaganda?
He joined the same organisation that Malcolm X belonged to, because Malcolm X
is definitely going to be a racist then. Malcolm X.
Yeah, but does that make him a Muslim?
He was a full and practicing Muslim, but the thing was, he was living in a time, 1964, where there was real racism going on in the southern parts of the states.
Is that Nation of Islam?
I can't remember exactly what it was, but I think you're right. I think it was called the Nation of Islam, yeah. But they were an out-and-out racist group who were fighting against the KKK of the era. The Jim Crow laws, the beating up of black people indiscriminately. They weren't like Black Lives Matter, who are just purely only Black Lives Matter groups.
Can anyone tell me where possibly this idea would have come from? I had a Muslim kid when I was young say that his imam told him that if he touched me, he would go to hell. Like, yeah.
You're unclean. Yeah, I've come across Muslims who are like that. When I was living in Wales, I was looking for somewhere to live, and the person who owned the renting agency was Muslim. You could see when I offered my hand to shake on the deal, he didn't want to.
So what was that about? Where's that from?
Not exactly sure, but I'm pretty certain it's just part of the package of the baggage. That you're the kafir, you're the unclean, they mustn't integrate with you, they mustn't treat with you.
Yeah.
You're just, ugh. It's like me
What's-
shaking the dog poo.
It's such an us versus them mentality. Like I mean, that's the way it's predicated. It's like, us versus, them.
Yeah.
I just don't. I never understood that. Like, it's just like people compare it to like the mafia, but it's like, bigger than that. I feel it's like this like exclusive brotherhood, where
How-
like if if you're not with us, then you're freaking against us. It's just
Like I remember, like I had this one horrific experience. Like this is another jumping a topic. Like how prevalent is the toilet practices? Because I remember being sat in a cubicle and we had to have installed like special like shower head douches like for the large Muslim population, and this guy next door, like the hose went on. And then water started coming underneath the cubicle, like where I was, and I had to lift up my feet because like shit water was basically. So.
Like our conversation last night, TJ, huh?
yeah, right.
So no.
Okay, so the thing about shaking hands, if you shake a lot of, or not a lot, but some Muslims, if you shake the hand of a non-Muslim, usually it's men won't shake women's hands at all. It's not allowed at all. But if it's a non-Muslim man, a man won't shake his hand. If he does, he has to go through wuzu again. So it's kind of a pain in the ass if you shake a non-Muslim's hand. That's all. So he might have like hesitated for a second because he'd have to go in the back and perform wuzu.
What about
Some kind of codified OCD.
What about touching Jews?
No, then you
Well,
burn.
any non-Muslim.
Okay, so there's no specific thing for Jews.
No.
The Shiite doctrine is different though, because they have a doctrine called najis, and apparently like non-Muslims, like their bodily excretions, like if like you touch like a non-Muslim who's like sweating or like whatever like that, like you have to clean yourself or something like that. But that's in like the Shia doctrine, if I remember correctly. It's called najis.
I've heard of that, but it was never anything I was taught. But I've heard of it. I thought it was maybe I did think it was shit. I don't know. I've heard of it.
All
That's a
right,
little
next
bit extreme.
topic. These are people who came from Sudan. They were communists, went to the UK as migrants, were taken in. The son was radicalized, and this is one of them, joined IS. One of the four who was taken in, given shelter, and then turned into a terrorist.
Oh, this is what.
Oh, how sweet.
This is what I was talking about. Like even like it's like even if they come in quote unquote moderate, then it's like when's the Tinder gonna strike?
Yeah, but they were communists. This is the funny thing.
Yeah, but let's be honest. The whole West versus Islam, it's not really that big a leap, is it? Let's be honest.
Well, I thought it was pretty strange that somebody would come in like this and then suddenly be radicalized to the extent that this person will then go to Syria and go and chop off heads.
You see loads of like Marxists in the universities like saying, talking about neocolonialism in Israel and capitalist wars in America, imperialism, genocides, etc. It's not that big a leap. It's all on the same narrative. All that's different is the article of faith.
Can we stop using the word radicalization and start using the words, I don't know, indoctrination, literalism,
I don't have a problem with that.
I don't know.
I'm tired of it. Like, radicalization to me is like being like a Marxist or something like that. But like, this is taking it literally. Like
the militant indoctrination.
Radicalization does refer to, like, radical refers to the roots, so it is still going back to the roots.
No, but TJ is right. It's overstressed. I mean, the word has been overused and abused so many times, it has lost its impact.
Brother Roots. Roots man.
I usually say extreme.
For that.
You want to hear Ibn Hisham, because it's almost time to leave.
Oh shit! It is true. Okay, there's two things I want to quickly talk about. How do people find that? What is our approach towards people dying in the Mediterranean when they are trying to leave Africa and go into Europe?
But the thing is, they're not coming from Africa. They're going into Turkey, and they're going from Turkey.
Okay, it doesn't matter. How do we feel towards people illegally trying to enter the country? and drowning in the Mediterranean.
I'm just I'm just like beyond the point of like I can't fuck it. I can't.
Am I supposed to feel bad? I mean, am I supposed to feel white guilt even though I'm brown? Like, am
So
I?
They're not fleeing a war. Well,
They are economic migrants.
they're
It's
usually
another
economic
way to
migrants.
commit suicide. If they want to drown, they can commit suicide if they want. It's their choice.
Like the famous kid who drowned on the beach. His dad came over for a tooth operation. Like he wanted to get his teeth done. Came over from Turkey, Syrian refugee, quote unquote refugee. I don't know. It's just like, fuck man.
Because it's quite difficult to decide whether you should really go and feel. How much empathy do you feel towards these people? Because I
shouldn't
feel
have any
sorry for every
empathy.
human who drowns in the sea. I mean,
No,
please.
what
But
implies
the thing is it suicide if somebody leaves the country and wants to enter another country illegally? I don't know.
Because when they use the Mediterranean and boats, if they got the money to pay for a boat, why can't they use their pooled money to build up Libya into a better country?
you shouldn't get overly emotional about things you can't affect. Like, you know, that's Kantian prerogative, isn't it?
That's why liberalism is cancer, because they use it, you know, they just use the emotion, like, oh, like, I feel bad for these people, and then they try to guilt trip you. It's like, I didn't fucking do anything.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the thing is,
yeah,
yeah, you shouldn't. It's completely irrational. It's unhealthy to extend your empathy to everyone, like universally. It should radiate outwards from yourself, ideally. You know, because that's what makes sense and that's what's feasible. You know, your family, ideally first, then your people around you, people you interact with. Like this universal empathy for everything that happens bad in the world. This whole, like, every time a disaster happens, oh dear, you feel bad about things happening miles away that you wouldn't even know about. You know, there's no reason that you'd know about it unless, you know, someone told you that it was happening. It's completely unhealthy to be constantly in this state of, oh, how terrible. Especially when you can't affect anything.
I was just wondering what people thought. So I'm not alone with this, because I also have a problem where my limit is. Because yes, I do feel sorry, but how sorry can I feel? I cannot feel sorry for every single person who dies on this planet every single day. That's exactly the point.
But
We
now
could take a leave from the Russians and do what the Russians did to Germany and build a big wall all around Germany and just let them go into Germany and just live there.
So now I'm at the point.
Let's quickly finish this. Talking about a wall, I don't know how many people subscribe to Potholer, but I was appalled because he got caught with the same stuff that I got caught, because I made a commentary on what Stephen Fry said on the Irish television. And when I took a couple of seconds of that, I was immediately slammed with the DMCA. And even though it was just a couple of seconds, and even though it was fair use, and even though it was this and this and this and this, and definitely fair use, I was still hit with the DMCA. The same thing happened to Potholer. And this is exactly what RTE is trying to do. And that is, don't use our stuff. We have a wall around what we do, and they don't give a continental damn about fair use or anything.
Well, what's the name of the person's channel? Sorry.
Potholer. Potholer 54, Potholer debunks, Potholer.
I didn't think he was
52.
broadcasting at the moment.
Sorry?
Well, his broadcasting has been so intermittent. I didn't think he was broadcasting right now. I think the last time I saw him was...
He released a
month ago.
kind of a parody video where he was pretending to be a creationist or something.
Well, he lost his account, didn't he? He lost his signing in numbers. He went off working somewhere and lost all his details. He's got them back apparently, but he only done about 3 videos and that's it. But yeah,
Do you
wouldn't
people
surprise
all
me if he's been hit
distinguish?
with DMC, because the YouTube had a policy of strike first, cut you out, then look at the charges.
Yes.
They've abandoned that apparently.
Well, I was still caught with this.
Yeah, you were still under the system then, but it's only recently. I think you need to talk to Joe more about it now. Joe makes money out of YouTube. What's he called? Does anyone else know Joe's other name? The Joe who famously said "fuck Islam, fuck Islam." That
I
Joe.
do not know any Joe.
Oh, I know
Are you talking
you
about
don't.
Live Life?
Oh yeah, Live Life.
Yeah, that's the guy you should have a chat with.
Yeah.
He's an atheist who runs it as a bit of a business, so he did do a topic about the changes in YouTube's policies.
I don't know, the whole online atheist community, a lot of them are just complete cocks.
Yeah, but now we're supposed to say something nice about religion at least once a day, so this is going to get...
Did you see the Reason Rally? The first thing on that atheist rally, the first thing, on their agenda was LGBTQP equality. That was the first
Oh,
thing.
it's not even. It's ridiculous. That whole thing is ridiculous.
Fuck
Really
Aaron
depressing.
Ra and those atheist plus cunts.
The really depressing thing about it is there's actually some decent speakers turned up for that
There
thing.
was.
I'm
The
waiting
atheist
for the
YouTubers
video.
I follow aren't cucks. They're strong voices, but there's not enough of us. I mean, I try to make videos that are anti-Islam. Well, only a couple anti-Christianity, but mine I try to be funny.
The problem
But
is, it's allowed these SGWs have infiltrated the fucking atheism movement and made it all about identity politics and progressive stacks, and it's
yeah,
just
they're ruining
completely
it.
crippled everything. So yeah, I think if I were you, I'd get the fuck out of anything to do with Aaron Ra and Steve Shives, all those fuckwits.
Yeah, well, because
Okay,
they're
on that bombshell, I'm not going to talk about ISIS fighters peddling Yazidi slaves on social media, but what we're going to do now is we're going to listen to Alasa, who's going to tell us about... actually, Alasa, can't you make this like a permanent fixture that you report like every week, 10 minutes, just tell us what it says, because that biography, I think, is one of the most important features in Islam. Could you do that? Just
Explain what it's about before he quotes it, because I have no idea.
yeah, this is such a brilliant book, and if somebody goes and says, all right, let me analyze this and give you a rundown like every few minutes, that would be absolutely wonderful. So, Alasa, all yours.
Yeah, well, just that people who don't know, Ibn Hishaq was the first one who wrote Muhammad's biography, and it's also called Ibn Hishaq by Ibn Hisham. Apparently, Ibn Hisham was a student of Ibn Hishaq, and his work was lost, and Ibn Hisham did the second recension to say what Muhammad's life was all about. First was the introduction. It has a lengthy introduction. I read the first 50 pages, and according to the introduction, Ibn Ishaq was born 85 Hijri. That puts him about 73 years after Muhammad died. Ibn Ishaq was born in Medina. His grandfather came from Iraq. He was taken slave by Khalid bin Walid's army and sent to Makkah, where Abu Bakr assigned him as a slave to one of his people, and he accepted Islam. Ibn Ishaq started his work in Medina, but he had a few rivals who did not like him at all. Then he moved away to Iraq, where he continued his work. The people that are a bit important to his biography, one person is named Urwa bin al-Zubair. He's the son of Zubair. His aunt was Aisha, and he had a very close contact with Aisha. And he apparently wrote down a lot of the stuff about early Islam. Another person was, I don't have his name, he was in Ali's army and fought in several battles for Ali. And later on, he also wrote down the details of some of the stuff. Ibn Hishaq is considered very reliable. Bukhari calls him extremely reliable. So is Muslim. So is Hanbal, and also Shafi. They called him highly reliable. According to the biography, which starts from Yemen, it gives a lengthy detail about the history of Yemen, leading up to the king who gathered the army of elephants and started to march toward Mecca. Apparently, Muhammad's father was a soldier who was also going to fight against this army, but then Allah sent an army of birds, and he didn't have to fight. He also goes back about the history of Ishmael. Apparently, Ishmael is buried where the Kaaba is, and he had a long list of his children, linking them to Muhammad. After Ishmael died, during the time of Ishmael's, the Muslims at the time used to circle the Kaaba like they do now, go around the hills. So basically, the traditions that are carried on by the Muslims were also the tradition carried on by Ishmael and his early descendants. What he says happened was Makkah at the time of Ismail and subsequently after became too congested, and people started to leave to live in the country, and with them they took stone from the holy ground to honor it, and then they started to kind of worship the stones, and then eventually brought them back to the Kaaba and placed them there. And the person who is responsible for allowing that to happen, the very first Muslim who started the shirk at the Kaaba, his name is Amr bin Luhavi, Luhavy, Amr bin Luhavi. Apparently, when Muhammad was given the tour of the heavens, he went by hell, and that's where he seen Amr bin Luhavi, and he was dragging his his intestines in hell. So Muhammad interviewed him, and he asked him, what happened to the generation starting from you and ending at me? And Luhavi told him that they all perished and they're all in hell. So this is basically the first pages, important things from the first pages of Hisham.
What a happy story.
You know, like one thing unique about him, he compiled a long list of early Muslims. Like whenever a Muslim quotes that this person was in Battle of Badr, according to him, he wrote every name of the people who fought in the Battle of Badr and those who stay at home. He provides a lot of details. So, you know, his grandfather was part of the early Muslims. So it's quite possible some of the stuff was related from his grandfather to his father. So at least he had the link with the second generation of Muslims. He's considered to be a third generational Muslim.
I've always found stories like that quite interesting in that they are proof to Muslims not to believe in that religion. You're talking about the first generation of Muslims, which Muhammad was referring to, actually ending up in hell. Now, how's that going to work out in the God's-based religion? Worship me.
Now you spoil it all by inserting reality.
Well, no, I just found that the Qur'an has quite a few of those type of texts as well. Little messages saying, don't believe in this bullshit.
Yeah.
I mean, stories like the Hadith where Muhammad says to his friends, if you want to get well, drink camel piss. I mean, seriously. That's the type of joke I expect some prankster to pull on someone. And if you believe it, you know, more fool you.
Stop being so Islamophobic, bro. Come on.
I'm so triggered right now, I can't even tell you.
I need a safe space now because of you. Jeez.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Rational thinking and shit. What's wrong with you?
Exactly. Look on the bright side. The French say you should drink your own urine every morning. You can't get more liberal than that.
Alassa, thank you very much, and I'm very much looking forward to the next couple of pages. One thing that we need to point out may be this whole biography thing was written 200 years after Muhammad was supposed to have existed, okay? Now, he refers to somebody called Ibn Ishaq, who wrote the first version, and he then sort of revised it, but we don't have this first version. So the first version is only hearsay. So if that didn't exist either, which is very possible, then this Ibn Hisham or Hisam is the first mention of Muhammad and as a biography completely.
Well, yeah, you're right. I mean, what claims in the introduction that the Urwa, who was Aisha's nephew, he apparently wrote text too, but that's not available today. Ibn Ishaq had sent 238 pages, a copy of his work, consisting 238 pages to Ibn Hisham, and those are not available. They're not there. The only work that is available today is the work of Ibn Hisham.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Allah. So then, are you going to give us the next 10 pages next time?
Oh yeah. Whatever I read, the important things, I'll summarize it and I'll give you the summary.
Brilliant. Okay. On that bombshell, it's time to say goodbye. We're just going to listen now to the highlight of every Jinn&Tonic show, which is the Hadith of the week. Ike, are you ready with our favorite Ali? Sahih Bukhari, book number 1, chapter 11, number 685. The Prophet said, "Straighten your rows, or Allah will alter your faces."
Allahu Akbar. 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 Inna kabirun. Allahu Akbar.
The great.
That was priceless. That was priceless.
Oh shit! I don't know where you get these ideas from. Really. Oh my goodness! All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your attendance. Thank you, oh, poor guy. Thank you very much for all your input. Thank you for the discussion. And if anybody needs help, it's a pity that Nebulous left already, because I would have suggested be careful what you do if you get into discussions. Always first listen to the claims. Never go and make your own statement when discussing anything, especially with Ahmadiyyas. First listen to what they have to say, then respond. Never come on your own. All right, we'll see you next week in the same place, same slot, same everything. Cheers, everybody. And if you have topics, if you have questions, if you have anything, feel free to come on in. And it's the Jinn&Tonic show on godless.ch or live.godless.ch. And if you missed something, please go. I put everything afterwards. I put everything on the archive.godless.ch. Bye.